With the second trailer of Demon Souls being released, a bunch of interviews and articles came with it. We pretty much had confirmed many things about the game, and a bunch of cool little details have been shown and discussed. So today, I'm here to share with you every cool little detail that's been shown in the trailers and interviews so far. Now, I'm sure most of you know what Souls games are by now. Demon Souls is the one that started this whole niche of a genre. For starters, or for those of you that may be a little unfamiliar with the game, Demon Souls is an action RPG developed by From Software for the PlayStation 3 under director at the time Hidetaka Miyazaki, who's now president of From Software. Now, when Miyazaki first presented the game to Shuhei Yoshida, head of Sony, he stated, "This is crap. This is an unbelievably bad game," as he said, and decided to not give his support to publish it to the West. As time passed, the game self-imported into the West and players fell in love with it and started making content about it. And slowly but surely, this organic success that the game enjoyed had Yoshida backtrack on his previous opinion of the game and had to acknowledge Miyazaki's craft as quite the success, and that he and the Japanese media had underestimated the quality of the game, explaining how he regrets his decision and hopes that he won't make that mistake again. Fast forward till today, and Demon Souls has become a PlayStation classic, commemorating this piece of art by dedicating the talented Bluepoint Games to making an incredibly refined remake of Demon Souls, a remake that pays homage to the game that became the stepping stone that led to the success of Dark Souls 1 through 3, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. So together, let us check out Demon Souls and all the cool little tidbits that we know about it so far. Now, most of you Souls fans already know that, but for those of you that don't, Demon Souls won't have a difficulty option, meaning that the game will be the same difficulty for everyone, and you adjust that difficulty by observing the environment, learning the patterns of enemies, and the capabilities of the character build that you created. Bluepoint Games are trying to maintain the integrity of the original game and don't want to make any drastic changes, which is why there won't be any difficulty options, as well as no 6th Archstone either, or any other cut content added into the game. Bluepoint Games feel as though they have no right to making these changes, and they'd rather stick true to the original vision that Miyazaki had for the game. The game servers will handle 6 players in each world with the remake, unlike the 3-player limit in the original game. And so that'll be the host, 2 phantoms to help, and room for 3 invaders. I'm sure this will spice up the online activity and will change the pacing of these online encounters, making them much more intense and interesting than the original game. World tendency remains unchanged, besides the fact that they've added UI indications so that the players can tell which state the world is in more easily. To briefly explain world tendency influences difficulty and controls additional events that occur in each world. The more you die in your physical form, the blacker the world and the more difficult the game becomes, but to mitigate this, you are rewarded better loot. And as you slay demons, the world tendency reverts back to white and becomes less difficult but at the cost of less valuable loot. It's an interesting mechanic, and you should really just play the game in order to understand how it affects it. And speaking of mechanics, a vault mechanic has been added to the game as showcased in the first trailer, which is neat to say the least. But as for world-altering mechanics, there's a new mode that's been added to the game, called Fractured Mode, which is, put simply, a reversed world mode. So whatever was on one side switches to the opposite side, from right to left or vice versa, be it an enemy or a doorway. It's kind of like a mirrored version of the game, which will make for a very interesting New Game Plus experience, especially for those that are already quite familiar with the game. Also, photo mode has been added to the game, but it's only available when there aren't any other players in your world. Souls games never really had a pause button, so I can see offline players using photo mode as an emergency pause button for sure. You'd also be happy to learn that there are no loading screens anymore thanks to the PlayStation 5 solid state drive, so you can expect warping in the game to be instant and you won't have to wait to get your souls back or your revenge. There are now new backstab and repulse animations. I'm a big fan of these brutal new animations. The second trailer showed us this backstab animation that triggers when wielding a mace. Very cool to see. While we're talking about weapons, Bluepoint took the time to add new animations to some of the weapons that have the same animations within their class type, which will give these weapons more character and a unique feel. Super excited to see what they've come up with. Also, 8-way omnidirectional rolling has been added as one of the many quality of life changes. The original Demon Souls had only 4-way directional rolls. This is, of course, a needed and expected change in order to keep up with the Souls games that came later. And before getting into how the PS5 controller changed the gameplay, I want to mention how great this game looks. I know it goes without saying, but just the sheer beauty and detail and improved colors of the game, it's just a joy to look at. All of the new tech working their magic to produce real-time lighting and shadows. And the sorcery looks absolutely incredible to look at. All the particle effects and the way this soul arrow lights up the place as it travels through. Not just that, but they also seem to have implemented these collision detectors that destroy objects based on the place of impact, as showcased here as the player kicks the enemy onto the bench. Bluepoint Games have done an excellent job with the Shadow of the Colossus remake, and they're taking it a few steps further with Demon Souls. They're even re-recording the soundtrack on top of bringing the voice actors back to record more dialogue, which is absolutely incredible dedication. It just goes to show how much love they're putting into this remake. Props to the Bluepoint team for their very noticeable and passionate effort that they've put into making this remake look like a brand new Souls game. I would even say that they've set the bar for FromSoft's new game, Elden Ring. Great work. Now with the PS5 controller, there's a new feature with the controller called haptics feedback, which is improved through the use of highly programmable voice coil actuators located in the grips of the controller. Now what that means is that the controller will simulate different situations to enhance the immersion and player experience. So when your metal sword strikes a metal shield, the controller will deliver an impact via the haptics motors in order to simulate the feel. This will also apply to environments, so walking on stone will feel different from walking in a swamp. Another awesome new feature within the controller is the adaptive trigger, which is the force motor. So when you pull back on your bow, you can feel the resistance, and upon releasing the bow, you can feel it letting go as it clicks. The game director talked about how these sensory features have made the game play better, giving the player sensory indications based on what's happening on screen. And of course, if you don't like it, you can disable it or adjust the strength of it. You also have the option to switch back to the old camera settings in case you're not feeling this new, more cinematic camera settings they've implemented. You can also swap filters, so if you prefer the old color palette of the PS3 version, you can revert back to that. So yeah, there seems to be quite a few options to play around with in the game settings. So definitely take a look at the settings and make sure that you've also set your settings on performance mode, which will lock your game at 60 frames per second rather than the cinematic mode, which locks it at 30. Trust me, once you go with 60, you will never want to play at 30 again. There's also mention of storing characters, which is weird. I'm not sure what they mean by that, but from what I understood, I think this allows players to store different builds, giving you the ability to switch between builds without having to do all the switching manually piece by piece. Kind of like an easier and quicker way to change your setup from one playstyle to another, but this is my understanding of it, so we'll see when the game comes out. And regarding healing changes, they've limited the amount of grass or healing items that you can carry at a time, similar to how it works in Bloodborne, where you can only carry 20 healing items per run. And on a final note, and maybe the most controversial change that Bluepoint and From Software probably had nothing to do with, is the gear that they've made exclusive only to those that bought the Digital Deluxe Edition. I wouldn't mind the Deluxe owners having early access to certain items, but this kind of exclusivity hasn't been seen before in any of the Souls games. Basically locking all other players out of game content simply because they didn't dish out an extra $20. A very disreputable move on Sony's part or the executives that demanded for this to be a thing. That's about the only negative thing I have to say about the game. This remake will keep us sane until the release of Elden Ring for sure. For Souls fans, I don't have to sell this game to you guys, but for those of you that are new to Souls games, brace yourselves for an incredibly unique and rewarding experience that you won't get in any other game or form of media entertainment. I recommend that you guys get this game and don't succumb to the numerous deaths that will happen to you, because what lies ahead of that frustration is the satisfaction that only upon experiencing this game will you be able to understand. Let me know what else you're excited about regarding Demon Souls. I personally am looking forward to grinding the PvP and invading as many hosts as possible. This will take me back to the old days when I used to play countless hours of Dark Souls PvP. So if you'd like to see that kind of content, stick around, hit the subscribe, and show me your support by liking the video. It really goes a long way to help the channel grow. I highly appreciate your time watching this video, and I hope you have yourselves a wonderful day. I'll see you in Boletaria.